what album got you into jazz? Like, what was your journey to jazz? Because I know, like we've talked before, we didn't start there.
Yeah, it's hard to imagine anyone our age that started there.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But I was really fortunate because my parents had a lot of records, and I used to go out into I would go like into the record room, and I would just sort of scour and look for cool album covers. That was all. The only criteria was it had to look like interesting.
So Blue Note.
Yeah, anything cool. ECM. Anything cool. I was like, all right, this is gonna be hip. And there was a record. It was an Oscar Peterson record. It was Oscar Peterson, Ray Brown, Ed Thigpen, and it was called featuring Herbie Ellis, and it was called Hello Herbie.
Are you serious?
Is that your record?
That's my record.
Oh my God, man! Yeah, it was like a complete and utter game changer. I had never heard music without it. Yep.
Oh my, yeah. Yeah. Oh my God, that record.
To say that that's blues for
Naptown Blues.
Naptown Blues.
West Montgomery.
Yeah. To say that record that just changed everything doesn't even give it the credit it deserves. I mean, like I heard that, I must have worn a groove into it that wasn't there before. I mean, I listened to it over. I never knew that like my parents were cool. Like they listened to great records and stuff, but like I never knew that music could be that electric. Like it was like lightning coming through the speakers.
That album sounds like a party.
It sounds like a party.
Yeah. The whole album.
All of
sounds
it.
like
Every bit of it. And when they take it down, I think Night and Day's on there.
Yeah.
And when they take it down, it feels like it was supposed to go down.
Yeah.
And then it comes back up, and yeah, I mean it's just wow.
Yeah. Everything on that. Yeah. Everything on that record. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm because that's not a popular record.
Oh,
I don't see people talking about it, and I'm sure, and I don't believe we didn't talk about this before, because like I'm genuinely shocked that someone else, like, because that was so like for me, the way I got into guitar, and I guess we can go into this some other time how we got into guitar, but my dad bought me Paranoid by Black Sabbath, and that album changed my whole existence. I owe Tony Iommi everything. That's the reason I make a living playing.
You were going to cut your fingertip off.
I was going to just cut them off, and the whole thing. I can put crosses on my fretboard.
Sure.
Playing SG and just constantly fight because of how neck heavy they are.
How neck heavy they are.
But so I got really into classic rock, hard rock, and metal. Iron Maiden, Priest, and then I was in high school. I got into the really extreme stuff: the Cannibal Corpses, the Morbid Angels, the Dark Thrones, and I played in a death metal band in high school. And senior year of high school, I joined the jazz band in high school, and it was fun to play because there was a way to play guitar during school.
Yeah.
But I still wasn't fully sold on jazz yet. I just like playing in the school, and I was learning all this new stuff. But I started getting into my dad's record collection. My dad does not like jazz even slightly, but he was really into he loves the blues, and at that point, my senior year of high school, I was starting to open up to if it's not metal, if it had good guitar, I was interested.
Yeah.
And so, I got into Stevie Ray Vaughan really heavily, the Allman Brothers, B.B. King and all that stuff. And through my own searches, because I was also a diehard Yngwie Malmsteen guy, I was very into the shred stuff. I was very into the and all that stuff. And I probably still do it too much, and so anything with the virtuosic guitar got me really interested. So I was into the Vinnie Moores, the Tony McAlpines, of course I did Van Halen and all that stuff. But then, I got into Holdsworth, because I heard people talking about him, and I was like, this is really interesting. This is cool. And Frank Gambale, it's all the sweet picking stuff. And from there, I got into Return to Forever because of Al Di Meola.
Sure.
And I got into Paco de Lucia and John McLaughlin as a result. But that's not jazz yet. That's still fusion.
It's incredible music.
It's incredible music. And so my first attempt to get into jazz, I remember I was at a record store. And because streaming didn't exist, we had to go out and get music.
Yeah, you had to go to stores and search.
I'm sure most people that are listening to a jazz guitar podcast remember that. So
right, sure, fair enough. Yeah, fair enough. Back in my day.
Yeah, but yeah, and so I found two records. I found Miles Davis, Feeds to Kilimanjaro, and Giant Steps by John Coltrane, because I heard people talk about them. And I was looking at the back of the Miles Davis record. I was like, oh, Chick Corea's on this record. Okay, I know him from Return to Forever. This is going to be great. I didn't get it.
No.
That record, I still don't fully get it. It's not my favorite Miles record. But then Giant Steps, I heard that and I'm like, well, this is too much.
Yeah.
I'm supposed to like this. This is
Yeah.
too much. Now it's one of my favorite records of all time.
Sure.
But at the time, it was too much for me to take in. So that set me back actually like a year or two for jazz. And then I remember when Columbia House would do those, buy
Oh yeah.
15 records for a penny.
I still owe like 100.
Oh,
I still owe like thousands of dollars.
Yeah, I'm still on the run for that.
Yeah.
But I remember I picked out a bunch of records from people I had heard of, and I remember at this time I was going to AIM, and I remember I heard Carl Cobo mention Herb Ellis. He did that line. That was his Herb Ellis line. And I was like, I didn't know who he was. I heard the name, and so I'm looking through the list. I find Breezin' by George Benson. I get a couple other records, and I saw Hello Herbie featuring Herb Ellis, and I was like, okay, and that was the first one. When I got those in the mail, the first one I put on was Hello Herbie, and that changed it.
That was it.
I'd never heard a record like that.
It opens like a freight train. I mean, it comes through your speakers. I mean, it sounds like lightning.
Yeah, and my dad, who does not like jazz even slightly, loves that record.
Yep.
Because it's just there's so much guitar. If you don't know that record,
yeah,
please listen to that record.
And so here's what happened. So like when I was like rebuying everything, like we've all done. If you're of a certain age, you bought everything on cassette and then CD, and then you downloaded everything, and then you bought it on vinyl again.
Yeah, when it got reissued. Yeah.
And so I bought it. I bought Hello Herbie on the Apple Store, like 15 years ago or something, and then they took it off of the iTunes. So you'll probably have to go somewhere else to get it, but you have to get it. It is required listening. I mean, it is the most incredible record. I mean, literally, like I'm sitting here because of it. So yeah, please.
And we're talking about Herb Ellis. Oscar Peterson's playing on that record is
Ed
unbelievable.
Thigpen, the king of the brushes. I mean, like everything about it is swinging.
Ray Brown.
Ray Brown.
Now, weird sidebar talking about records we own on every format. I own Eliminator on cassette, vinyl, CD, and a remastered CD. I don't know why. Yeah, it's not even my favorite ZZ Top record. But
so, I would be remiss here if I didn't. I'm like 15 years old. I'm listening to I'm like shedding 7-11, and I have no idea what it is. I just know that I can't put it down. And so I was like, all right, all these guys are playing there was a thread that ran through all these guitar records. It was that all the guys were playing like arch tops. So I started looking for album covers that had arch tops on them. And I found a record which was going to, with all due respect to Hello Herbie, to say that this was a transcendent moment in my life kind of doesn't do it justice. I found a black record, and it was die cut, and in the middle of the record was a Gibson arch top leaning against a tree, and all it said on it was Johnny Smith. The album said Johnny Smith. It was a die cut record. It was you fold it, you hole in the middle, guitar on the tree. And I thought, like, well, that's a cool looking guitar. I bet it's good music. That's a decent logic, right? And that was a 1967 Verve Records release that he did, and it had like really, really accessible tunes. It had like Girl from Ipanema, Memories of You by U.B. Blake, and it really accessible tunes. And then I saw like down toward maybe on the back of the B side, maybe the back of the A, the back of the B, whatever. I saw Michelle and Yesterday, and I thought, no way, like, because I knew about the Beatles like by this point, so I was like, there's no way that there's someone out there playing this kind of guitar, playing Beatles tunes. But sure enough, he plays Michelle with a quartet, and he plays Yesterday's as a solo, and that was it. I was hooked. Like when I realized that you could play guitar like that, and play songs that people know, that I knew as a 15-year-old, I was completely in, and I've never looked back. So, Verve Records, 1967. I think it's just called Johnny Smith.
Mm-hmm.
It's like I have two copies of it. Like it's required.
Yeah. I'll have to check out that record.
And while you're at it, anything by Johnny Smith will change your life for the better.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
absolutely,
highly recommend it. Everything.
Yeah,
everything.
So on that same the same time, so we're talking about the albums that got into jazz. What other albums were big game changers for you?
Gosh,
like in any style of music.
genre, like whatever genre aside, like I like a lot of I liked a lot of like like early reggae, like ska music, like early reggae and ska. I love like DC hardcore. Like Fugazi's one of my favorite bands still to this day. Um, Dead Milkman. I couldn't sit here and not talk about the Dead Milkman. Like I'm sitting here because of like Punk Rock Girl and Big Lizard in my backyard. Um, I never really had a metal phase. I missed out on a lot of that, but I loved Bad Religion, like a lot of the Epitaph stuff, anything like kind of like, and then the Beatles somehow fit into that as well. But the Beatles were kind of every band.
Yeah,
like exactly. they you could like Obla Di Obla Da is like a reggae tune, and Helter Skelter is like the first metal song, and it's hard to say that they were just like whatever they were because they were everything.
Yeah.
So Zeppelin 1, my God.
Yeah, that's a great one.
Axis Bold as Love. Like, I mean, Axis was like.
I've always preferred Are You Experienced?
See, I've always been. I'm really. I'm probably a Ladyland guy, but Axis was the first one I had on CD, and I could just let it play over and over again. Yeah. And it just would, and that's what it would do, and it would just sit and it would spin all day long, and I would listen to it on top to bottom, and but yeah, I mean that's. Yeah, and it's still like even to this day, like I listen to a lot of jazz music, but I listen to a lot of non-jazz music too. On the way here, I was listening to Of Montreal from Athens, Georgia, who like happened. If you don't know about Of Montreal, you should check out Of Montreal. But anyway, what about you?
For me, well, like Paranoid by Black Sabbath is the reason I started playing guitar. But really, all of the records, and I mean all of them. Like I'm not one of those people that like I actually like Black Sabbath. I'm not one of those people like only Ozzy. Right. Dio ruined it. No, Dio was great in Black Sabbath. Yeah. Ian Gillan, Deep Purple's one of my favorite bands of all time. Ian Gillan sang on one record for Black Sabbath. People don't like it. I think it's a great record. The Tony Martin era, all that stuff is great. And I listen.
I missed all of that.
Yeah, it's so good. There's so much good stuff in there. Tony Iommi's guitar playing is not all like he plays great on every record, but the early records is I think my favorite playing of his because his playing has more direction as the 80s got more flashy, he got more into, and that doesn't really suit his style very well. And he got a little sloppier and stuff like that. But his songwriting has always been absolutely top notch. The album that absolutely changed my life was Project Z, with Jimmy Herring, Jeff Sipe,
and Jonas.
No, Jonas isn't on that.
I'm thinking of the Sean Lane record.
Yeah, those are great records too. But I can't remember who's on bass and keys. Oh no, he passed away. The bass player,
Ricky.
Yeah,
Ricky Keller.
Yeah, Ricky Keller. Yeah, he's on bass on that. That record, and Derek Trucks is on a couple tracks, and I know I look like him, but I'm not Derek Trucks. I promise.
It's Derek Trucks.
But they improvised that whole record and then kind of pieced it together in the studio. And when I heard what Jimmy Herring was doing on that record and what you could do in music, like you could just disregard everything and just work your way back to tonality. Like I never heard that before. That changed my whole life. Yeah. And then for a long time, I sounded just like Jimmy Herring because I knew every line. I remember I would show people Jimmy and be like, "Dude, is this you?" And because I sounded so much like him. But yeah, that record made a big difference. Weekend in LA, the Benson live record, that record messed me up when I was in grad school. I never heard guitar playing like it. Cookbook. It's Uptown.
It's Uptown.
But like on Weekend, like he would end tunes with like some ridiculous feel like that. Just his playing was unbelievable. But then I still listen to Iron Maiden, Dance of Death, Peace of Mind, all those records. Judas, like I saw Judas Priest a couple months ago. They were still killing it. Rob Halford's 70, he's still killing it. Yeah. At Fillmore East, I don't care what kind of music you like. If you don't know Allman Brothers at Fillmore East, you don't need to be playing guitar.
I know.
That's one of the most important guitar records.
Steely Dan.
Steely Dan. Okay.
Steely Dan.
Every record, but Katie Lied's my favorite.
Yeah, Royal Scam. Asia. I have 2 copies of Asia in case something ever happens to one of them.
Yeah. There's so many good records out there, and we're probably forgetting half of them.
I know, yeah. And I'll take a 10 on the way home.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, it's good stuff.
Yeah,
it's
awesome.
important to be into a lot of kinds of music.
Yeah. Listen to music. I mean, that's like we have like one job,
Yeah.
Like listen to music and
enjoy it.
Enjoy it. Like actively listen to it. Like spend time. Like it's such an important part of what we do as musicians. Like you have to know about stuff. You have to be aware of things, and it's really it's and it makes you a better band leader, and it makes the gigs more interesting. It makes people want to hear what you're gonna do. Like I can use myself as an example because I know myself really well. Like like I do stuff on I play like I'll do stuff I'll play like Flaming Lips tunes and stuff on jazz gigs, and people always go, wow, what's he gonna do next? Like we did a set of Madonna at a gig, and people were like, man, who is this? What's going on here? Like I thought you were a jazz band. And but people dug it because they kind of recognized it, but it was new and it was different, and
Yeah.
you know that's great.
I always do Beatles tunes, Stevie Wonder tunes,
Yeah, of course,
Santana's tunes,
yeah.
which are really Peter Green tunes. Yeah, I've done War Pigs on a jazz gig once.
Yeah, sure,
you
sure.
know.
Yeah, it was good enough for Alex Skolnick.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
You know.
yeah. It's great. Like that, there's so much good music out there. Don't feel like if it doesn't have a 2/5 in it that it's not gonna be good like for you. You know, you can make anything great. I mean, I think things are great without 2/5s. You know, 2/5s are great though. So that should we should go ahead and firmly establish that
Two
axiom.
important. Yeah.